Welcome to the Immigrant Entrepreneurs Podcast, episode 64. My name is Alina Warwick, and today we have Lei Wang on the show. But before we continue with this episode, I wanted to ask if you can share some love by subscribing to the podcast and leaving a rating. If you leave a rating, your name may be dropped in one of my future episodes. So stay tuned and connected.
And I really did not come from a family background with a lot of experiences in this kind of like overseas learning. Surrounding me, I don't have any close friends who have gone through similar path. And at that time, there were no internet, nobody that you could chat. So I was pretty much on my own. I think the fear was that you finally knew that you had to handle some world of unknown by yourself.
Lei is originally from China, and she applied to schools in the States to study instructional technology for her master's. After being denied for a student visa 3 times, she thought to herself, maybe I'll try one more time to see what happens. If I don't get accepted, well, then it's not meant to be. So on the 4th time, she received a student visa to come study instructional technology at the University of Houston. But after working in her field for 17 years, she asked herself, why did she come to America? Was it to work in a job doing the same thing every single day? So she found herself lost and wanting to do something more in her life. Lei started to attend entrepreneurship conferences, and that's when she realized that she wanted to launch a franchise, Minuteman Press, that does commercial print marketing products. But it wasn't easy. She found herself alone on this journey and no one to turn to. She is basically yet another self-taught immigrant entrepreneur. This episode is filled with lots of wise advice, so let's dive right in. Lei, thank you so much for coming on the Immigrant Entrepreneurs Podcast. I truly appreciate your time, and I'm super excited to hear all about your journey. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about your immigrant journey. Tell us where you're from and when did you come to the United States?
I'm from Shanghai, China. I was Shanghai born and Shanghai bred. And I came to the States at the age of 24. That was 1997. I was on F1 student visa. The goal was to pursue my graduate degree at University of Houston. So then I studied for 2 years. Then I have a very standard path in terms of immigration visa. Got a program called OPT, which allowed me to stay for a year to find a job and then just try out like for a year. Then since I worked at a university, so I was able to get H1 visa so that I remembered clearly I didn't have to go through a quota issue at that time. Then after H1, I even transferred a job from Pennsylvania to Texas. So again, it was an educational institution. So I was able to get H1. But then later I got married. So my status was, my husband was also from mainland China, and then he applied his green card, and then so did I. So we were on a very long period. I remember we got a labor certificate and we got 485, if I remember clearly. Then we were on the waiting about 5 or 6 years until I got my permanent residency, which is actually 2 years after my husband got his.
Wow.
Yeah. So
6 years.
Yeah. So that's my journey.
Wow, that's a long time. And what was it like growing up in Shanghai, China?
Well, I think I'm very fortunate kid. At that time, the society, we had a lot of coupons that we have to use to buy items. But in my family, I think we still had to use a coupon, but I never felt that we were like tight or anything. So I feel like I had a pretty happy childhood. I was able to get everything I want. Of course, I didn't really want a lot of things, but I didn't feel that we were in the scarcity mindset at all. I was pretty happy and healthy, but a lot of stress from the student life side.
And why do you say that?
It's just the student life has lots of competition, and the parents' expectation was fairly high on the academic side. And then everything is ranked. So you feel like you're being pushed with an unseen hand that you want to top your class, top your whole grade. And then that's how I feel. It's a pretty intense as a student.
Yeah, so I hear in China, and I'm not sure if this is correct, but students are in school for like 12 hours a day.
Yeah, I remember we started early in the morning, about 7:30, and if we wanted, we could stay at the school till like 7, but I never stayed. It was voluntary. I think some rural area in China or small cities, I think because a lot of the kids, they stay in the boarding school, so they were
Hmm.
able to study longer. But I'm in a very normal public school, so I was able to go home at around like 5:30 or 6:30. It was just a very tough when it comes to academic side.
And what about summer breaks? Did you guys get any summer breaks?
We did. We have about 2 month long summer vacation.
Oh, that's good. That's good to hear. And when you were growing up, did you always know that you were going to end up in United States?
I think I knew from very young, early time because I remembered one summertime I was at a friend's house. We were watching the movie The Sound of Music together. So she and her sister, and then me and a few other neighbor kids. When I was watching how kids were playing, and then how the teacher was teaching the, of course they were, family at homeschool, but I felt like the way the teaching and learning was happening, and then the way the music was used, it was very impressive. So I think that was my in my middle school time. And then at that time I got some opportunity to listen to some of the band.
Hmm.
So I remembered I heard a band called Wham, and then I was able to sing a lot of their songs. I was able to memorize most of the lyrics. And I was crazy about Karen Carpenter at that time. So I think a multiple influence kind of suggest to me that I really do look forward to living overseas when I grow up.
Got it. And what did you study for your undergraduate degree and for your master's degree?
I studied pedagogy and a principle of education for undergraduate school. So I went to teachers college. Then graduate school, I was also in the College of Education. I studied the field called the curriculum instruction, specifically in the field called Instructional Technology. So that's the field that helps. At that time, internet was just emerging technology, and then we were helping faculty members to convert their curriculum online. So that was the very initial stage for the web-based learning at that time. So that was my major.
And when you were applying for your master's degree, did you apply to any other countries or only United States?
Yeah, I applied for a university in Japan. It
Oh.
was a women's college. At that time, I studied Japanese for about a few years, and I took their language examination and I passed. So I got their admission letter. And then at the time, I already applied the American universities, and I got I-20, but I got rejected at the US consulate in Shanghai 3 times. It was really bad.
So you got accepted to a college in United States, but the consulate rejected you.
Yeah. So at that time, I always had a Japanese test going on. So then I applied for that Japanese university, and then I got accepted. So I was about to go to Japan because Japanese visa at that time was relatively easy for us to get. But I told myself, I said, let me try the US consulate one more time. If I
Mhm.
got rejected this time, I'm not going to think about this anymore. That simply means I'm destined to not to go to America and then just go to Japan. So I
Mhm.
tried one more time, and then last shot I got it.
So fourth time you got in.
Yes.
Wow, awesome. Okay, and you said you were how old? 27 years old?
24 years old.
And so tell me a little bit about the struggles. You were 24 years old in a brand new country. Did you have any family or friends? What are some struggles that you had to go through?
Oh, yeah, it was. I think it's really the fear and uncertainty when I was about to board the airplane. I did have a American friend at that time. I was teaching her Chinese when she and her husband were working in Shanghai the year before. So she and her sister at that time lived in Los Angeles. So I knew they were going to the airport to pick me up. So that part I was okay. But still it was about the future, about how the life was to unfold, the
Mm-hmm.
path that I'm going to take. And I really did not come from a family background with a lot of experiences in this kind of like overseas learning.
Yeah.
Surrounding me, I don't have any close friends who have gone through similar path. At that time, there were no internet, nobody that you could chat. So I was pretty much on my own. I think the fear was that you finally knew that you had to handle some world of unknown by yourself.
So how did you handle it? How did you get around? How did you find lodging? Did you live on campus? Did you buy a car? How did you figure it all out?
Oh, it was not a very successful story. But I think anyone who were in that situation when you had no choices left, you just have to move forward.
Yeah.
You don't have a way to look back, honestly. Many years later, when I was reading Bible, there was a chapter in the Genesis was saying that the Lord's wife turned her head back and then she turned into a salt.
Pillar
Uh,
of salt. Mhm.
Pillow thought. And I really can resonate with that. I feel like you really cannot look back.
Don't look back. That's awesome. I love it. So then, can you share some of the experiences? How did you find lodging? Did you get yourself a car? How did you get around?
I lived on campus, a dorm shared with a few roommates. So it's a
Okay.
three-bed apartment. I had two other roommates. One of them already had a vehicle at the time. So she was able to give us a ride if we want to do shopping. It was in Houston, so you have to have a car.
Mhm.
But I did not get a car until the second year. So finance wise, I got a scholarship that only covers about three-quarters of my living expense.
Okay.
So I was able to get some money from my family. I brought some money with me to fill in the blanks. So in order to buy a vehicle, I know that I had to buy a second-handed car. So I remember I got a $2,000 Mitsubishi Mirage at
Mhm.
that time. It was a little car and very easy to have a mechanical problems. It died in the street a few times. So, somehow, since I never had to drive very far away, I was able to get by. Yeah.
Right.
I think the challenging part is about living with the people from other countries.
Mhm.
It was a challenge. I had a roommate, and then we all had different lifestyles. I actually had a roommate. She is from a northern part of China. And then culturally, I feel, no matter what country they're from, even that's from same country, the different cities still feel very remote. It's just the way that you have to learn how to live with other people and then learn the principles. Because I think nowadays a lot of Chinese new students coming here, they are all from a family with a single child.
Mhm.
I'm a single child myself.
Oh,
Think sometimes growing up, we didn't learn the boundary very
yeah.
well because we never feel there was a need. But then when you were in the like international setting, you have to learn the concept of boundary and to respect other people, the
Mhm.
golden rule.
So did you come with any savings when you came to study? Did you have any savings with you?
I did not. I got all the money from my family. I worked 2 years as a teacher, but I spent all the savings on the airplane ticket and the visa
Oh,
application and the school application.
wow. So you came here with 0 money.
Well, my family gave me about $10,000 at
Oh,
the
okay.
time. But I told you since there was a gap, so I had to use that money to pay rent
Mhm.
and then pay the some of the tuition I had to cover using that money. So money was a big problem for me at that time.
Did you get a job on campus?
I did. I was working at a on-campus daycare center.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And during the semester, I was actually the research assistant. So I worked at the computer lab, helping, open this computer lab, troubleshooting some of the computer issues. At that time, the email program is called a telnet.
Hmm.
So you have to know some of the command to troubleshoot because there are always people saying that they cannot access their email. There's some of the command doesn't work. So, so at that time, there is an email GUI interface called a Eudora, I remember. So it's just troubleshooting some of the software. I was able to figure that out and teach people.
Got it. Okay, so Lei, tell me a little bit about the journey of how Minuteman Press came to be. So, you graduated with a master's degree. Did you get a job after that? Where did you go? And what was that journey like for you?
Oh, yeah. So when I was at a graduate school, we studied, so information visual representation was one of the classes we had to take. As a result of that semester, I was able to, learn Photoshop, Dreamweaver, Illustrator, Authorware, so those kind of software. My job at the University of Texas was beginning a trainer, a technical trainer, and then I became system administrator. I was, again in the IT field, troubleshooting on the hardware and the software level. I was with the UT for like 17 years,
Wow.
both for the UT Austin and the UT system. Then there was a 1 year our chancellor offered some separation package, and I realized I qualified for that separation package because I would work there for long. Then I realized that I feel like I have a void that I need to fill.
Hmm.
I feel like I'm not satisfied. I got paid well. UT treated me very well. The job is very respectable. I really could not find any reason to hate the job, but I'm just not satisfied.
Hmm.
It's very difficult to describe that hollowness. But I was a middle school teacher when I was in Shanghai. It was a very stable job, a very reputable job. I think one of the reasons I'm not satisfied is I feel like I have gone through a huge cycle just to repeat itself, to be in the same position, reputable school, reputable job, doing the same thing every day. So there was a point that I was questioning myself that why did I want to come to America? Just to get the same job in a different situation. It's not exactly same job, of course, but I just feel I was in the middle school in Shanghai, and then I was in the university setting in Austin. I somehow feel that I can do something more. So I was attending some of conferences and then listening to some of the at the time some presentations and the seminars. So I found this printing company. They're nationwide. They're actually a franchise.
At the conference?
Yeah. So I started talking to them, and then I realized that I could have utilized some of my graphic design and web design background into the printing world. And then nowadays, printers are like computers because each
Hmm.
they have a little computer attached to them on the back. And then they are operated via the networking. So I feel like on the networking and the hardware side, because of my years of experience in IT, I feel like I can take
Hmm.
care of it. So I feel like this is something that kind of hit the sweet spot on me. And then even though I had no idea how it worked, I feel like I have to give it a try.
What kind of conference was it?
It's in Austin Convention Center. It's called a franchise
Oh,
expo.
okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So they had somebody keynote talking about mindset, motivation, and entrepreneurship. And then
Wow.
they had each individual had their tables.
And it stole your heart.
Yeah, I was just there with a friend, but the more I listened to it, I feel I was able to relate to all these years I've gone through. It's really resonating with me at a deeper level.
Got it. Okay. So you took the separation package, your job, and then so did you quit and start Minuteman Press, or what was that journey like?
Yeah, so when we took the separation package, they gave us a few months. They give us like a 3 month, and then I don't have to quit after a year. So I basically have more than a year to prepare for this launch.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so I sent my notice like a year ago. I kind of mentally I'm able to prepare myself for over a year.
Hmm.
So I was able to save a little bit, and with the separation package, I actually took a gap year. I went back to China. I traveled, I toured a few places that I always wanted to. And then I was able to use some of the savings that I had all these years and then put into the business.
Okay. So, what did you do in the very beginning? Did you go to Google and say how to open up this company, or did you call up some of your friends? What did you do?
I feel like I'm repeating the same path. I feel like I don't have a lot of friends having their business surrounding me. Some of my friends, they're maybe realtors and maybe they're loan mortgages, but they cannot really help me in terms of the company. So
Mhm.
I found that I was alone again, like the time that I was onboarding the airplane.
Yeah.
So I feel like,
Don't look back.
yeah, what I did was I actually, it's very stupid and simple way. I got a few books. I got one book I remember called INC Yourself. They're still on my shelf. And I
What
have
is it called?
it's called INC Yourself. It's a like baby steps tutorial book.
Okay.
Then I read some textbook. I forgot the name, but that book was so well. I can text you the book again. After reading that book, I realized that from text perspective, how a company should be
Hmm.
formed. Itemized various company formation, and then it itemized various tax formation. So I was able to figure out what kind of a company that I need to form. So I formed the LLC, and then I filed a tax as S corp. I had zero knowledge in the business, but I was able to read a few very good books, and I was able to figure something out. And then use that book as the blueprint. I was able to work with a few government agencies, and then do some paperwork correctly. So I basically did it by myself.
So amazing. This is just pure self taught. You picked up a couple of books and you used it as blueprints, like you said, to go on and open up a business, which is unheard of these days. And it's so powerful that books are still so good and they're full of useful information. So one of them is, I think I found it, is it Inc yourself, INC dot
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. Mhm.
So you launched your company, the Minuteman Press. What did you do next? How did you get customers? How did you get that traction going?
Yeah, so that's a very scary part. So the we have a home office in Long Island. So the home office, after they collect the money from us, they send us to Long Island. We attended a week-long training to learn about the printing because most of the new owners bought into the business had no idea about what printing.
Okay, so is this a franchise?
Yeah, this is a franchise. Yeah.
Got it.
So the equipment and then some of the basic manuals they provide support. That's why we had to go to this Long Island place to learn some basic techniques. So marketing wise, because we're individually owned company, okay, we're
Mhm.
fully operated individually owned company. So they really cannot really help you much about marketing. So we knew from the very beginning we're on our own.
Mhm.
So I was taught that I have to do door to door marketing.
What?
so
Oh no.
yeah, so there was some of the script that they provided us, and then I was told by many other owners they found Facebook was not very effective marketing for our industry. So I was like the sponges listening to all these voices, absorbing all the water from all directions. So I was able to come back home. I was trying all these marketing strategies one by one. Of course, there were other challenges that I had to face. So I had a disastrous first few months because I was overwhelmed by the logistics of a store front and
Mhm.
the store build. Meanwhile, I had no idea how to start it with marketing on my own. I remember the first month, I only did one invoice, which is a copy job. Yeah, it's like a $30 something from a.
So how did you find your customers?
At that time, I had a Google ads. I spent some money on the Google ads,
Okay.
and then I joined the BNI, business networking group, starting to
Yes.
introduce myself to other owners. That's how I gradually know each other. And then I did door to door marketing. And then it turned out to be like a 30% of my revenue.
So and when you went door to door, did you go to businesses?
Yeah, I sometimes went to storefront.
Mhm.
Sometimes it was corporate offices. So I just get myself in front of people and then tell them who I am, what I do, what I'm able to help them with.
Got it. Got it. Wow. Amazing journey. Thank you so much for sharing that. So, Lei, tell us a little bit more about Minuteman Press and what you guys do.
So we are a commercial printer. When it comes to printing products, we're not very good at printing family album or making photos. So we're not good at a competitive price at all. But we do print marketing materials for companies, for restaurant. So the items commonly that I print every day are business cards, banners, menus, labels, stickers, and then booklets. So those are the items that I learn to produce
Mhm.
and then learn to produce well and then learn to produce economically for people to help them save money. And then, you are thinking, a lot of people are thinking like nowadays, nobody is having a hard
Right.
handheld piece anymore. That's what I used to think. But nowadays, the printing technology allows the printing to appear on the garment. So we can print on t-shirt, we
Mhm.
can print on like mouse pad or whatever, anything that you can think of.
Promotional
Yeah,
products. Right.
yeah. So the sublimation technology allows you to do more promotional items. And then there's a latex technology allows you to print more outdoor items with the vibrant colors, which is also waterproof and weather resistant.
Mhm.
So we were able to, print things on the windows, on the walls, on the banners. So actually, I remember when I was at a school in the graduate school, I remember there was a class we were talking about how human beings are visual animals, that no matter how advanced technology we're adopting, nothing can change because we're still visual animals. So now, the more that I'm working in the printing industry, I do realize that. So I print a lot for the realtors. I've found that the person who print a lot with me, her team, is actually selling, multi-million dollar business in the realtors. And then she just very disciplined to market and then allocate marketing funds to do marketing. So
Mhm.
I actually learned a lot from these successful business owners. I found that it's basically a matter of system that I learned that in order to succeed, you don't rely self-control. You don't really rely on your intelligence. You don't really rely on anything else. It's really build an effective system and you stick to the system and then let the system run your business. That's what I learned from these successful people.
Yeah. So, how do you build a successful system?
One thing I learned is I need to train my employee more systematically. So I have been working on building employee handbook,
Mhm.
store operation manual that I use to train people. So one thing that I read about the Zappos founder, his name is Tony Hsieh. He just passed away a few months ago, but he
Yes.
wrote a book called Delivering Happiness.
Mhm.
So in that book, he mentioned that how he emphasized the culture is important for a business, how he try his best to hire the people who can agree with his culture, and that he can be part of the family and of a team member. So I learned from that book, and then now I'm having my employee to write their quarterly journal, to write down their reflections on why certain case was not handled very well, how it can be handled better, what are their takeaways on the past month's transaction. So I made them write. They did not want to write in the beginning, but then they end up writing, and I compiled their writing into our employee handbook.
Oh,
So that's what that book Tony Hsieh was talking about. So because I can print my own book, so I printed that employee handbook, and I was able to use their writing as a training material for anybody that I'm hiring.
that's so useful. Zappos is just such a revolutionary company, right? Okay, so Lei, how old were you when you started your business?
45.
45. Way to go. Oh my goodness. Yes. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
I'm getting a lot of youngsters now. I want to get some older people that have, been over 40 years old to see them start brand new businesses. It's so wonderful.
Yeah, I was trying to join Austin Young Chamber. So Austin Young Chamber is a chamber of commerce featuring the young
Uh-huh.
entrepreneurs. So I printed some work for them prior to COVID, and I was thinking about joining, and I realized I was too old to join their chamber.
What is the cutoff? What is the cutoff? 40 years old?
I think it's a 36 or something.
Uh,
Yeah, I was way beyond.
well, the KFC guy, he started like at 65 years old, right?
Yeah.
And he built a was it billion-dollar company? I don't know if KFC is multi-billion, but definitely multi-millionaire.
Yeah. Well, what I was thinking is I could have stayed in the UT for the rest of my life until the official retired
Right.
age. I could have done that. So if I continue to stay at the UT, I could retire at the age of 55.
Mhm.
So at that time, I was 45. So I was asking myself, do I want to spend another 10 years doing that? Or I want to spend the 10 years doing something totally different?
Mhm.
So I was struggling for a very long time. I decided to try something so that I have nothing to regret in my deathbed.
Yes, so powerful. Yes. And it reminds me of the book that I'm reading right now, which is The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And it's something very similar to what you just said, because a lot of people are, on their deathbed and have so many regrets of, I should have started something, or I should have followed my passion. I should have followed my dreams, but I stuck around to keep the safety and security of a job. So was it scary for you, Lei? Because you worked there for 17 years, you had a stable salary coming in, and all of a sudden it was like, down to zero, and you had to figure this all out by yourself. Was that scary at all for you?
Oh, it was indeed so scary. And then it was not zero, it was negative the first few months.
Uh-oh.
Indeed negative because I had to put in the fund to support the day-to-day operation.
How much did you
Uh,
put in?
so it was in stages. So in the beginning, for us to purchase into the franchise, it was a little over 50K. But then I had to take on a loan to cover the equipment. So that was a commercial loan that I was able to get it through the franchise home office. So they worked with a third party like a loaner.
Mhm.
So I got on a loan that was like a $42,000 loan.
Mm,
I have a monthly payment with them. That's
mhm.
nearly $1,000 a month.
Okay. And how long did you start seeing some positives?
I just broke even last year.
Broke even last year. Okay.
At about 2 years.
Okay, so it took you 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
So at the end of first year, I was starting to break even, but then it was on and off. It was not consistent. So some months I still need to my own money in it. So I was lucky that since I started working at the age of 31, I had an account Roth IRA at a very young age.
Yes.
So when I had a Roth IRA all these years, I realized that if I take the money out, the money I put down out, it's tax free, and then I don't have to pay anything, no penalty.
Mm.
So I was able to use the Roth IRA, my contribution money out to do this.
Because you left the company.
No, Roth IRA, anybody can have it. It's not a 401k.
Okay.
So Roth IRA is the money that you put in after tax money.
Got it.
And then you cannot take out the money that you earn from the stock market,
Oh, got it.
but you can take the money you put in out
Mhm.
without any age limit. So I was able to, since I started early, I was able to accumulate a lot of money in it. So every year everybody has a max about 5,500 to put in, but I think back in 2000 you were only allowed to put in 2,500. So since I started early, I was able to have like $40,000 in it that I can take out without any penalty.
Got it. So you took that money and invested it into your business.
Right. Right.
Good. That's good to hear. So, Lei, did you have any mentors that helped you out to start your business?
I did. I had not to start out. To start out, I really did not have mentors. I had some, so our franchise, we had a field rep, we had a field office. They're
Okay.
Dallas based. So sometimes I can ask them questions, but since because they're really from the home office, they cannot really give you specific suggestions because they have to consider there are other owners and then there's interest of conflict. So there was a long time I was on myself. I did not have any mentor. But the last year I joined a business coaching program. So I was hesitating. I feel like should I join it now? But I ended up joining, and that turned out to be very beneficial. And that I was able to learn so much from the coach and the mentor.
Is it called Action Network Group?
Yeah, yeah, it's called Action Network Coach.
So you think it's beneficial for entrepreneurs or maybe immigrant entrepreneurs to get themselves plugged in, find a coach, find a networking group to be able to build those connections and relationships for their businesses?
Yeah, I absolutely, I think everybody should do that because you think about a football team. Any football team, they need teammates.
Right.
Teammates, they're your coworkers, right? They are your networking group people. They're your teammates, so they're your ally. But that's not enough. You always need a coach to coach you on the strategy, on the
Mhm.
mentality, on the management side for yourself. Because
Mhm.
team member, they cannot do the job the coach is supposed to do. But then you need the cheerleaders. Cheerleaders could be your friends, could be your family. They can just hey, don't give up. Just so those are the three parties I think that everybody needs.
Yeah. I love it. There's so many things that we can learn from sports that can be
Yeah,
applied to businesses.
yeah.
And you're totally right. The entire ecosystem of team players, a coach, an audience, cheerleaders, it all just blends in so well. So, Lei, how do you reinvest in yourself to keep up to date with your printing, your marketing industry? Do you read some books? Do you go to conferences? What do you do to continue to reinvest in yourself?
I think the most effective way and a practical way for me to do it is to keep reading. So I'm reading books. You don't have to find the books because the good books is going to find you. All you need to do is read one book because that book is going to introduce you another book. And
Yes.
yeah, so you don't need to find them. They're going to show up. I'm on average, I'm pretty much reading one book a month. So English is my second language. When it comes to English reading, I'm not a very fast reader.
Hmm.
But I want to read English books because that helps me to think in English, think in this
Hmm.
language. So I'm reading all the books. I could have read the translated version, but I decided to read the originals. So I'm reading one book a month, and I
Hmm.
read some Chinese books, which those I can read way faster. So I can read a lot of Chinese books on the side. Then I found interviewing other successful business owners are super helpful for me. I have been interviewing some other business owners. Some of them are even retired, like they no longer own any businesses.
Hmm.
But by interviewing them, I learned tremendously.
And where do you find these people?
You just need to talk to people. So I just found my two neighbors. They are super successful multimillionaire people. They're like old. They never in the neighborhood meeting. They don't really talk. But if you really ask them, wow, you found he used to run a multi-million business and then he sold his business and then it's a family business. So he and his brother co-own it. And he had tons of story that he can tell you. Yeah.
Wow.
And then I had another neighbor. I was talking to him the other day, and then he recently moved from Vail area, Colorado. So I was just
Yes.
talking to him about ski, and then realized that he used to be a very successful furniture dealer. And then I was able to talk to him, and then interview him. I have a questionnaire that I interview him, and then most likely these people are happy to answer your question.
And it's so amazing to hear everyone's story because through their story, even if they have done businesses completely opposite of you, like a car shop or, a clothing store, there's always something from their story or their experience that you can apply to your business. And you're totally right. And this podcast here just shows so many stories of immigrants going through their journeys, how they opened up their businesses, what kind of steps they took, what failures, what successes they've gone through, and at least one item we can each pick up from every single entrepreneur on this episode or any entrepreneur that we talk to and pick their brains. And like you said, they're more than willing to chat or to get together, cup of coffee. So we cannot be afraid to ask for help or ask for advice.
Yes, absolutely. You're right. There was a, speaking of a podcast, I listened to this podcast by NPR guy.
Guy
Yeah.
Raz.
So he had this
Yes.
program called How They Built It. That's super
Yes.
inspirational.
I love it. I listen to it on my daily walks. Every time I'm on by the river, I'm always plugging in my headphones and listening to so many powerful stories of how people built their businesses. Yeah, you're totally right. I love it. So, Lei, let's switch gears. And I wanted to talk about mistakes or failures because there's always a story behind the mistakes we make. I wanted to ask, are there any mistakes or failures that you'd like to share with us where you saw a positive shift after implementing new things?
Yes, I have made so many stupid mistakes. Feel like, oh, I need to write a book and then so that I can relive it if I get a chance. Um,
Oh my goodness, I love it.
I think one huge mistake I made was during the planning part of the business, right? Like you are looking for a storefront, like you are negotiating with the realtors. I think that portion I did it terribly. I was not a good negotiator. I was basically telling myself, I have a goal. I need to achieve this. I need this to signed by certain date. So I'm using my own timetable to do that instead of
Mm,
really comparing and actively seeking competition so that I can get the best deal. So that was the so
mhm.
I didn't get a good deal on the lease per se because I kind of told myself I just want this to happen. I think a good analogy is like a single woman just tell herself that, oh, my biological clock is tickling. I need to get married. Uh, so
Yeah.
then so now there's a person proposing. I need to jump into it. So
Yes.
totally forget about looking at all the other aspects of the relationship, personality fit, or all these other things. So I think I made that stupid mistake, like a young woman trying to get married for the sake of getting married.
Yeah. So your advice is for immigrants to negotiate and to keep on searching and don't jump into fast deals or fast leases or fast contracts,
Right,
right?
right. Have to be careful about signing all the paperwork, or at least get
Mhm.
another person to look at it.
Yeah, I love it. So, Lei, what does the American dream mean to you?
Well, I think first of all, it means freedom, but the freedom is a very broad concept. To further define it, I think it's really to free and dare to be the person you can be. So it's all about very internal, very intrinsic thing about what kind of person, how you know yourself and how you want yourself to become. So the I think the goal should not be what I want. Because in the beginning, I thought I want to have this green card. I want to have a house. I want to have this car, that car. But I realized that it's not about really wanting, it's about becoming. Like what kind of man or woman that I'm now becoming. I feel like America gives the people freedom to choose what kind of person I want to become, and also gives the
Hmm.
person tremendous support to help the person to become the
Yeah.
person that they want.
Yes. Absolutely. Can anyone reach their American dream?
I believe so firmly, yes, if they try. if they try hard.
It's so powerful to hear how all of these, immigrants come from different countries where other countries, they don't supply that freedom. And we just have to understand that, I spoke to a gentleman from Somalia and the government chooses an education for you. They say you're going to become a doctor and that's it. You don't have any other choice, or you can leave the country and go study something else, or you're going to become an engineer and you have no choice. So they pay for your school, but they choose the careers for you. Whereas in America, like you said, we are in the land of freedom where you can become anything you want to become. And how successful do you want to become? It's all up to us.
Right. And then one final thing that I really want to add is America is indeed a society with a wealth of information and resources,
Yes.
as long as you put your mind in it. Like, I don't know how to do a lot of things, but nowadays you open YouTube, you go to the government website, and you can find a lot of support, amazing sources,
Mhm.
as long as you put your mind onto it.
So immigrants cannot be afraid to start their businesses.
No, not at all.
And so, Lei, is giving back, either volunteering or giving back to the community, something that is part of your business values?
Absolutely. So I work together with and for some nonprofit organizations. So as an Asian person, that I belong to a group called ACAN, called Asian Chinese Asian American Network. So we work closely with them. And then there is another group called PAPA. It's the Asian Pacific Islander organization. And that is a nationwide organization. So I feel like finding the tribe that you belong to and then do something back for the community is really important for a business, because that's how you can truly root into a place, and then boom.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And so, what are some things that you would advise the next aspiring immigrant that wants to start their own business?
Well, I would say they should first of all go to chamber. So there's a in Austin, there is a chamber called the Greater Austin Asian Chamber. So I think there they can get a lot of support because they have some policy. I think one weak area most immigrants have is the culture and the legal side. I think
Mhm.
those kind of chamber, they have sufficient resource and they understand from the immigrant's perspective that what you really need. And then had I known those resources existed before, I would have cut through a lot of mistakes that I had made.
Hmm.
But I kind of knew it in the hindsight. I feel like I should have gone there first. That would have helped me prepare me. Instead of me reading tons of books, somebody would be there more effectively for me to shed some light on my path.
Yeah. And there's so many chamber of commerces in local communities and to getting plugged in, and the government can assist with so many different grants and programs, and people are just willing to help and give so much information to these immigrants that would love to start a business. So you are totally right. So thank you so much. So Lei, I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on the Immigrant Entrepreneurs podcast. Your journey is absolutely amazing and astonishing. To see you start a business at 45 years old by reading a couple of books is absolutely amazing. So, thank you so much for coming on and inspiring all the immigrants listening.
Thank you for having me. That's a great show. I had a great time.
Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. If there are any links that were mentioned in this episode, make sure to check them out on my website under this episode to find all the links conveniently located in the show notes. I just wanted to ask for a quick favor. If you could please leave a review wherever you're at listening to this podcast. Also, if you're an immigrant entrepreneur and would love to be on my podcast, please email me and we'll get connected. I'll see you guys all next time for another exciting and impactful episode. Take care.